In early 2022, Nintendo announced that the eShop will be closing in March of 2023 on the Wii U and the Nintendo 3DS. And a lot of people were not too happy about this. But before the eShop could really close, there was one man that was set the task to make 7 games for both the Wii U and the 3DS. Let's begin as to how we all got here to this very day. A developer by the name of Gerald Dooley, who runs Sungrand Studios, originally was a mobile games developer who made games like Animale, Slender, and a few other different titles. Unfortunately, according to him, they didn't sell well. So he switched focus on developing games on the 3DS and the Wii U. The first major title for the 3DS was Silver Falls 3 Down Stars, as a new 3DS exclusive. The reason for developing on the 3DS because the developer felt like there was a lack of scary games in the 3DS, in which doing research, it's basically pretty true. The game was set to launch in December 26, 2019 in North America and January 9, 2020 for Europe. Unfortunately, the launch couldn't meet up and had to delay the game to get rid of some bugs. But despite all of that, the game launched with terrible graphics and plenty of bugs, including constant game crashes. He would later state that the reason the launch like that is because of a family emergency and couldn't check the bugs in time before the game would be able to launch.
Hello, Jarrell from Sungrand here. I wanted to thank everyone for picking up Three Down Stars and playing it and supporting us, sharing their feedback and whatnot. It has come to our attention that there are a number of glitches that players are finding, that some are mostly just aesthetic, and others are quite substantial and are game breaking, and we do apologize for that. It's quite disheartening for our team because we've poured in thousands of hours of development and hundreds of hours into testing, and it's come to our attention that there are a lot more bugs that have gone through into the build that was published than we realized. And so we've looked into it, what has happened to cause all of this, which is very unfortunate. Again, we do apologize. During the last month of development, our main machine, which we were using to program and build and fine-tune the game and prepare it for publishing, that computer crashed. The hard drive died while we were backing up about a week's work of progress. And what happened was when we set up a new machine, we recovered the data from the old hard drive. Quite a bit of the data got corrupted, and we didn't realize that data had corrupted. And by the time we had reached that point in development, we were so close to the deadline, we didn't have time to play through the game again and again and again, as we had to keep making more and more adjustments, and we would keep making new builds and keep making more adjustments and fixing and fine-tuning as we were requested. And there just wasn't enough time. We didn't have enough resources, and so things that worked perfectly fine before the crash were suddenly broken. There's weird glitches in the game where there's data missing that causes crashes. There are events that loop endlessly that will get the player trapped in an event that they'll never be able to escape. And I really don't want to turn this into a game of excuses, but what happened is for the last 5 weeks of development, I had a family emergency, so I had to leave the country for 5 weeks, which means that during this chaos, when there's so many things that needed to be checked, a number of things that needed to be fixed, I couldn't be there in the office, and I had very important family issues that I had to focus on, and the only work that I could do was really manage paperwork with Nintendo and prepare the publishing process, and there wasn't a whole lot I could do to make sure that there weren't game-breaking glitches. So unfortunately, I accept responsibility for that. The responsibility falls onto me. And I do apologize that the end product that we sent out to people is something that's quite broken.
Despite the terrible reputation that the game had gotten, the developer will try to make new updates to the game to have more improvements, while also making newer games for the system. And one of those games that also came out some point soon was Silver Falls Undertakers for the 3DS, which is an Atari-like game that you can play. Which the game would get positive reviews, which meaning everything was going on track according to everything he's been doing. But when he made the game, he revealed in a live stream he wanted to make this game because he wanted to make fun of E.T. from Atari. I'm not making this up. Also in the year of 2020, he also announced Ghoul Busters will be coming to the 3DS, but for some reason the game ended up being cancelled. During this time too, he was worried about the future of the Silver Falls series due to the game's terrible reception on the 3DS. Also, as for the Ghoul Busters production, the game was resurrected and was back into development, as this will be part of one of the game's catalogs I like to call the 7 games. Now, let's jump ahead for what I'm talking about. The games on the eShop was set to be no longer be able to be purchased, but you can still download them. Like I mentioned from before, Nintendo had announced that the eShop would be closing in 2023 of March, and one man was tasked to make 7 games for both the 3DS and the Wii U.
Okay, this is the first gameplay footage of Silver Falls White Inside Its Umbra. I'll unplug this. So this is running on Wii U hardware, and I'll show you the control scheme here. As you point the Wiimote, if I can, I'm not sure if I've got this on the camera here, but see how I'm aiming the Wiimote at the screen here? That aims the flashlight, and you can look around. If you tilt the Wiimote left, obviously the flashlight beam will move to the left, and if you're close enough to the edge of the screen, you'll turn the screen there. I'm playing much too close to the screen, so it's very sensitive, but realistically you wouldn't be standing this close to the screen. Now you have some characters to talk to. I kind of want that item down there. I've talked to him first. Well, I gotta finish talking to him.
One of those games that was first announced on the Wii U was White Inside Its Umbra. This was the first game that would be announced on the Wii U, and it was set to come out in 2022, but the game itself got delayed due to safety concerns with the Wii Fit balance board. It's mainly because you used the Wii Fit balance board to control your movement. If there was a jump scare, you might fall off the thing. So Nintendo forced him to delay the game, but if you guys were to get the game, you could still use the Wii Fit balance board, but not for the story mode, but for Seal Chapter to see how the game was meant to be played in the first place. But it was a nice, unique concept of a thing, considering no other developer at the time was able to use something like this.
With this short presentation, I'd like to share with you the games that we have announced to launch later this year throughout 2022. Now, you might be wondering, why did we announce so many games exclusively for the 3DS and Wii U eShop when the eShop will be ending sales in March 2023. That's 1 year from now. So the reason why I've done this is because I've been getting contacted by a lot of people expressing demand for more games. This comes after announcing our Wii U exclusive title White Inside Its Umbra, and after Nintendo announced the future closure of sales on the eShop. People have told me that they are looking forward to White Inside Its Umbra, but they've asked for features that unfortunately cannot be a part of White Inside Its Umbra, and I'm getting messages all day long from people who are asking for more games, and I just want to be able to bring something exciting to these consoles so we can all celebrate the legacy that the Wii U and the 3DS have enjoyed so far. I feel passionately about these consoles. They've had an incredible impact on the gaming industry. So creating these games and launching them on these consoles is my way of celebrating that and sharing excitement with people all around the world. So I hope you enjoy.
So the announcements were 4 games on the 3DS and 3 on the Wii U. White Inside Its Umbra on the Wii U, along with The Undertakers being on the Wii U, with exclusive content of multiplayer, locally wise, and Gaiden. On the 3DS, it would be Guardians and Metal Exterminators, Vicarious Brothers, Gaiden, and Ghoul Busters. So, unfortunately, Vicarious Brothers was one of the games that was cancelled on the 3DS, while Gaiden was cancelled on the Wii U, both of them due to time constraints. Both of those games I should mention are planned to come out on Nintendo Switch in the near future. But sometime after the announcement, Gaiden on the 3DS will receive another game inside of it called Ruby River, which is kind of similar to Rust and Minecraft. Also, the reason for some of these delays too was mainly because Jarrell himself came contact with COVID, so he couldn't do anything for a week. Also, these games come with a thing called a code linker. What they are is that when you buy a game, you can type in the code in one game from another. What I mean is that you take the 3DS, or Wii U, or Switch, or any other system that has a code linker functionality, and you can use it to unlock exclusive content, like cosmetics, items, and more. I already made a tutorial video on how to do it, so I'll leave the link in the description below if you guys really want to get into it. Anyhow, let's keep moving forward with this whole thing. One of the first games to launch on this thing was, of course, Ghostbusters. The game was well received, but the only unfortunate problem was that there was a game-breaking crash from 2-3 level. Good news and bad news regarding that game is that the good news is the update was fixed, but the bad news is it only worked for North America and not in Europe. Yeah, this was a part where Nintendo was no longer letting people bring out games in Europe for both 3DS and Wii U, so only North America can only have the titles. But luckily, due to fan demand, the game was ported over to Nintendo Switch with enhanced visuals and some new filter options. As part of an added bonus too, there would be a Game Boy game called Galaxy Bound Curse. Yes, you heard me right, and it's free. You can get it on the developer's website. I'll leave that also in the link description below if you guys are interested in downloading it. It's still in beta, and despite that still being beta, the game is set to get an HD remake in the future as well, as it's going to be a Switch exclusive. Again, if you guys want to play the Game Boy version, you can. It's there. So it'll still be supported despite it having a remake. Guardians and Metal Exterminators will be another game that will come to the 3DS, but just like 3 Down Stars, it also ended up being a new 3DS exclusive. Unfortunately, the game has stability issues, and for some weird reason, the game was mislabeled as a 3DS game and not a new 3DS game in the eShop. So the game was taken down for a short period of time, updated to have much better stability, and this would also be game getting a remaster pretty soon in Nintendo Switch, featuring new content. And that game it's more like 3 games. You got 2 Tiger Electronic games, and you also have like this mission-based game where humans have their own story, and surprisingly, the monsters have their own story. The game would come back up, but again, it was mislabeled as a 3DS game, but later was recorrected to be a new 3DS game. So that problem was fixed pretty quickly. So then in early 2023, 2 Wii U games would finally get its own release, both on the same day, I may add. Both Wii U, which is White Inside Its Umbra, which is the initials, and the HD version of Undertakers. Well, it's not exactly the HD version, but its multiplayer counterpart is. And one of the final games to be on the 3DS was Gaiden. Unfortunately, there was trouble, and only questions were rising up. Will the game make it to the 3DS? And will it be the last ever 3DS game to be released?
Hi, I'm Jarrell from Sunbrand, the developer of the Silver Falls games. This month, we launched our 2 brand new Wii U games, Silver Falls White Inside Its Umbra and Silver Falls Undertakers. Very excited that so many people out there have picked up the game, are enjoying the game, sharing the game with not just couch co-op and couch versus, but also with other people online. So firstly, I just want to say thank you to all of you for enjoying the Silver Falls games. did also launch Ghoul Busters on the Switch, and we also have our 3DS titles that have launched recently, Ghoul Busters and Guardians of Metal Exterminators. Now, I've worked the past 12 months as hard as I possibly can and coordinated with Nintendo to be able to bring these titles with you, but I do actually have one more that I'm hoping we can bring to the Nintendo 3DS exclusively. And that title is Silver Falls Gaiden Deathly Delusion Destroyers. This isn't just a single game, it's actually 2 full games in one, because it includes Silver Falls Ruby River. Now, unfortunately, the game is in a state right now where there's no final confirmation on whether or not it'll actually be able to launch, and I don't have a final release date, which would indicate that it actually can launch. Today I've got some pretty good news for you. That final game that we've been working on, Silver Falls Gaiden Deathly Delusion Destroyers, will actually be launching on the Nintendo 3DS before the end of the eShop support. So, this is a pretty massive deal. It's hard to really understate exactly why this is so massive, but basically Nintendo has worked one final miracle for the 3DS fanbase and moved a mountain in order to get this game launched. I'll go into a bit more detail later on if you'd like, but let's just focus on the exciting positive parts. We've got Gaiden 3Ds, which will run on every single 3DS model. So it doesn't matter if you've got the original 3DS, the 2DS, it'll work. But on top of that, the game comes packaged with Ruby River. These are 2 complete unique titles. They each have their own play style. They're full complete titles and they come packaged together. So these are the final 2 games that I developed for the 3DS. And they all come bundled together, so search for Silver Falls and you'll see that on the 3DS. So the reason why this is such a massive deal is because it took such a long time to develop these games. As a solo developer, that can be quite taxing, and it is more of a challenge because I was developing multiple titles simultaneously. I wanted each game to be as good as it possibly could be, leaving the door open to updates so I can patch the game and improve it according to feedback from people who enjoy the games and reach out to me. So, Gaiden Deathly Delusion Destroyers wasn't able to launch before, and that's because issues with the game engine resulted in the game being rejected. There were some issues in the game, but I reached out to Nintendo and I tried to work out a way that we could launch this one final game just for the 3DS community. And Nintendo did work that one final miracle just for all of you, and they were able to get this game launched. And we're able to do that by coordinating and working on an update patch. Hopefully we can get that launched a couple weeks after the launch date of the game, and the patch update will fix all of the issues that are present in the launch version of Gaiden, Deathly Delusion Destroyers.
And that will conclude the chapter of bringing games to the Wii U and the 3DS. While this was also happening too, he launched a Kickstarter of a Pokemon mini game, which was a little handheld for Pokemon. He's making his own game, which he pledged for 700 Australian dollars, but it got over that, and so development will begin after Face Takers will come out on Nintendo Switch. Not only that Face Takers will come out on Nintendo Switch, but he also announced that RPG title Road Past Guilt. Also on the way is Guardians and Metal Exterminators Remastered on Nintendo Switch, 3 Down Stars Remaster, along with a free homebrew game called Silver Falls Duck Season for Nintendo DS. And most recently, the man himself put out a free album on the Game Boy for the Ghoul Buster soundtrack. I'm not making this up either, but it's an interactive album, per se. Speaking of Ghoul Busters, a potential Game Boy port is set to be released as well. If you guys like reading books or anything else like that, he also made a book called Silver Falls Heavy Shadow. I'll leave the link in the description if you guys feel like reading it. It's not finished, but you can see how it's going from the progress that is being made. any of the previous games that were originally announced for Wii U and 3DS will come to Switch in a future date. As for 3 Down Stars that was on a new 3DS, the game will receive a huge overall update with improved graphics, performance, and less game crashes. And that was pretty much it. So yeah. So, I can tell you that the new update for 3 Down Stars is much better than how originally it was from before. There may be some pop-up at times when it comes to trees, but that's to probably be expected. But if there was a game crash, you can always use autosave, which definitely will help you in the near future if you need it. So yeah. So that's pretty much it from right here. This is one man that made 7, well, not exactly 7, but 6 games on the 3DS and a Wii U before closure. So we were really supposed to get 8 games because of the newly included Ruby River that was not announced until sometime later. So all I can say is, if you guys are gonna look for these games on homebrew softwares and that, definitely get them a check out. As I mentioned, there will be more homebrew games in the near future. That's all I can really say about that. So, if you guys are interested in what you've been seeing about Silver Falls, you can get them on Switch, 3DS, and Wii U. And that's pretty much it from here. And I hope you can enjoy the story that the games have all been told.